to In Her Wallet, a podcast helping women all over the world take control of their finances for good and build better financial futures, one episode at a time. Today, we're talking about insurance, a topic that's been requested by many of you, and I think it's fair to say that the reason for that is because the topic of insurance can be a little bit confusing. On a basic level, we all know that insurance is a product that helps you manage your risks and also protects you from unforeseen financial losses. But these days, there are so many different products out there that it's unlikely you need all of them or might want all of them. And so today, my goal is that after listening to this episode, you will leave knowing why, when, and what insurance products you might consider buying. And to help us answer these questions, I have two amazing guests, Nikki and Shanna, both of whom are licensed insurance advisors, and they work for Cove Advisors company in Vancouver, Canada. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us. Thank you, Sophia.
So good having you, ladies. Before we dive into all things insurance, let's do a little icebreaker so our community can get to know you a bit better. Nikki, what's your
Yes.
go-to coffee order?
So, fun fact about me, I do not drink coffee. But if I have something that has a little bit of coffee in it, I'll usually go for a chai tea latte.
Fun, love this. And Shauna, what about you?
If I'm gonna go for a coffee at a like a barista shop, I'm gonna go for probably the shaken oat latte at Starbucks. It is perfect. Like the vanilla one that's shaken on ice, delicious.
Ooh, yum! That's what my
Yeah,
sister usually
so good.
does. And the next one is, Nikki, what's your favorite movie that you can watch again and again?
Again, I don't have a favorite movie, but I'm pretty much one of those people that loves watching everything and anything almost, except for, you know what I can say? Not into horror. I will not watch a horror movie. So anything but
Me
horror.
neither. Me neither, though a recent one I watched that's considered a horror, it's called The Menu. It's not really horror, but I really loved how they filmed it. It's about a restaurant industry, so take a note of that. Shauna, what about you? About you?
I also don't like horror, but in just thinking of movies that I know that are always going to be like piquing my interest is probably Shawshank Redemption. Might be because I have a history of working in corrections before this job and I kind of like that whole theme, so let's go with that.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, got it. And finally, last question. If you could move anywhere in the world right now, where would that be?
I think, you know what? Italy. I've never been. I've done so much research on it. I love pizza. I love the views there, and yeah, I would want to move to Italy.
I totally agree with you. Shauna, what about you?
I mean, that sounds great. I think probably for me it's going to be Bali. It's something I've had my eye on for a long time. I know the cost of living is really cheap and it's beautiful and the food apparently. So maybe there.
I've been there a few times, and I can totally agree that you should go there. Yes.
It's on the list for sure.
After Thailand, we talked
Yes.
about that before with you as
Yeah.
well. Okay, so today we're doing things a bit differently than usual just because of how complex the subject of insurance can be. And to help everyone grasp the information better, we've split the episode into several parts: insurance for homeowners, insurance for soon to be mothers and mothers in general, and finally, insurance for business owners. A part of the conversation I personally am very excited about because it applies to me now. But before we dive into these three types of personas, Nikki, can you perhaps walk us through what insurance in general is and why should we even bother getting it?
Yeah, of course. So insurance is a way to prepare oneself and family for when life doesn't go as planned. Because as we all know, life isn't always going one, two, three, and how you foresee it going. So many people have this lifestyle that they've grown accustomed to and they want to uphold that. They have a family that maybe their kids play sports or they go to expensive schools and they want to be prepared for if anything were to go wrong. They've grown accustomed to that life. And you know what? They have other things to worry about. So this is just ticking off one of those worries to have that freedom to not take up that financial worries in your brain.
Yes. And Nikki, what would you say to people who decide to neglect purchasing insurance because they might think that they don't need it right now, they can postpone it? What's your thinking on that?
So a lot of people do have this perception that I'm healthy, nothing's going to happen to me, but unfortunately, things do happen. Things do go wrong. There has been cases where this client is the healthiest client ever, but they had a heart attack out of nowhere, or, anything can happen in everyday life.
As
So
we all
just,
know.
yeah, as we all know exactly. So just to throw some stats out there, just to get an idea of things. So 1/3 of Canadians will have a heart attack or cancer in their lifetime, and 1/3 will become disabled once before age 65, with 60% of disability claims aging from 35 to 54. So that is pretty significant numbers. And unfortunately, when people aren't prepared, they are forced to do things such as drain their bank account or sell some assets that they shouldn't have to do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and these sound a bit horrifying. But to make things more positive, obviously, there are tools in place like insurance that can help you protect from this. So that's
Exactly.
good to know. So moving into the three persona types, starting with the most common one, homeowners. If we're considering that I'm planning to buy insurance, I'm planning to buy real estate in the near future, or I've just bought one, why do you think I should consider purchasing insurance?
Yeah, so insurance is, of course, important. We insure our car and a lot of other things. So it is important to insure your mortgage. A lot of people think that to get mortgage protection, you have to go through a bank, which they will usually supply critical illness, disability, and life insurance, which we totally agree with. But there is a better way to do that. And that is getting it individually, where you have control of where the benefits go, which is important. Myself as a woman, I have my own insurance, and I like that because I have control of where the benefit goes. When you go through a bank, the money's going back to the bank, right? So I think it's important for you to decide how you're going to use it. It could be used to purchase or to pay off more of your mortgage, or to put food on the table for your kids, right? It can be used how you see fit, because the benefit does not decrease as time goes on, such as through a bank. It
Mm-hmm.
stays the same, right? And it's yours, you own it. So if you decide to move or to change your mortgage with a different bank, if you're going through a bank, you're going to have to redo everything. If you have it with you personally, it stays wherever you go. You are the owner. You're protecting yourself as a homeowner instead of the bank.
Totally. So there is that additional level of flexibility built in if you go that route.
Yeah, it's portable,
Hmm.
right?
And what are some of the most common or must-have insurance products for homeowners? I understand that there's probably a wide variety. Can you give us a couple that you might suggest for a homeowner?
Yeah, I would say it's important to get all three. So that's life, disability, and critical illness insurance, because you don't want to be covered for just one area when something goes wrong. You want to be covered for all three, so
Hmm.
that if one thing were to happen, you're prepared and you are able to handle that mortgage or any other bills that may arise because of what has happened.
Right. Okay, well, I think that kind of answers my question. Thank you, Nikki. You were so clear and concise in your response. Moving on, let's talk about insurance for mothers to be and those women who are already embracing this role. Shanna, can you tell us why this type of woman might be interested in insurance?
Of course. So, lots of times when women are meeting different life milestones, that's just a really good time to take a look at your financial situation. So, a lot of moms, kind of before children come into the picture, their mindset is like, what happens to my stuff if I pass away? But when baby comes, it's a quick shift to what happens to my child's future if I pass away. Will they be cared for financially? And that's a really important thing that a lot of moms consider. And that's something that insurance can help with.
Mm-hmm. And if you were a mother, I'm not sure if you're one.
I'm not.
Okay, thank God. I was like, okay, you're making a mistake
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no
Okay,
worries.
if you were to be a mother, what insurance product would you go for yourself?
For sure. So I've worked with a lot of mothers, and it's one of the more common women that come into our office because, like I said, things happen. They start to think, okay, I need to get my ducks in order, I need to get my adulting done, and this is one of them, right? So the first and the most easiest one to set up would be a term life insurance policy. So it's extremely affordable. It covers the risk for a term that's needed for the mom. So usually we'd say about 20 years while the child grows up. It provides a tax free cash benefit to the beneficiary, which could be your spouse or the child with a trustee. And that will maintain the child's lifestyle while they grow up and have funds to support them grow up if, heaven forbid, something happened to mom and she was to pass away. Another one that I think is important and kind of interesting to consider is a small life insurance policy on the life of the child. So, some interesting things about that is it can protect the insurability of the child. The premium is really low because the child is young and it's often based on age, right? It also provides cash during a very difficult time for mom. If a child was to pass away at any time over their life span that you're covered for this insurance policy, the cash could let mom take time off work, have time to grieve, and just do whatever she needed to do during that
Mm-hmm.
time to, deal with that really difficult situation. A few other unique things about this one is it does allow for tax deferred cash growth within the policy. So at a future time when the child grows up, they can pull the cash from that policy to use it for a down payment on a home or education while still keeping the life insurance throughout that whole time. So that's pretty awesome. And one of the things that's also really important with this one is you can pay it off in 15 years. So a mom can pay it 15 years, premiums be done, and then the policy can be the child's and they don't have to put any more premiums into it.
Amazing. I
Hmm.
haven't heard of that one before, so thank you so much for highlighting it for us. And just to confirm, the first product that you mentioned is in case a mother passes away
Correct.
and that protects the child, versus the second product is the opposite. Did I get that right?
Correct. Yeah, the second one definitely does that as well and supports the child. It does both. And just like a quick thing that I can mention about cost on the second one, because it's kind of, people wonder like, what the heck could that even cost, right? So a few that I've run recently was for like a $50,000 life insurance benefit to start on the child, and it was about $50 a month to be done premium payments in 15 years. So pretty affordable for all of those benefits that it can provide, which is pretty great.
Considering the peace of mind that you get
Hmm.
with that. Totally, I agree with you.
Hmm.
Well, Shanna, considering that you said that you yourself, if you were a mother, would get this, then I definitely trust you on this.
Hmm.
Let's move on to business owners, a role that applies to me, Nikki. So I have my company registered. I'm a sole shareholder in my business, but I do not generate any significant income right now, nor am I paying salary to anyone. What insurance would I need and why, if any?
So for business owners, really the overall insurance strategy is going to be different for everyone, right? Like the situation that you just described is going to be for you is going to be different from a business owner that walks in the door that has, let's say, a partner and maybe one administrative staff below them, which maybe as you continue to grow in your business, you're going to look like that in the future, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to kind of look at it in maybe in two different steps. Let's talk about the first
okay.
one.
So for the first one, either way, we are looking to protect the business from catastrophic financial loss, right? So that could happen if you as an owner or if in the future you have key employees suffer an illness or dies prematurely. So if that happens, what happens to the business? So for you as a
Hmm.
sole entrepreneur right now with just you, I would say your biggest things to ensure is going to be if you're not running a brick and mortar business, it's going to be your ability to earn an income. For you, it would be a disability insurance. When you have
Hmm.
other people brought into the business, that's where these next ones are going to be more important because if you're the revenue generating person and you're no longer able to do that because you're ill or you pass away, what happens to your employees?
Totally. And that kind of, I think, takes us to the next level of a business owner. Imagine, let's say she leases a space and she pays rent. She also has a few employees on a payroll. What about this type of business owner?
Yes, exactly. So for that one, if outside of group benefits, because that's the first thing most people think about, which totally important, but that's kind of a separate business strategy for insurance. Uh, it's important to protect the main revenue producers, the key people, right? Those are the ones that we
Mhm.
need to protect. Because if a key person passes away, suffers a critical illness, uh, what this insurance policy does is injects an amount of tax-free cash into the company. So this will allow the business owner to possibly recruit another employee if that's needed. fund out the shares to support a shareholder agreement if they need to buy the shares from a partner or somebody else within the company, and keep the business alive. And the thing that business owners often forget is that they are also the key people. So you don't just need to insure somebody that's working within your company that's a main revenue earner, but it's likely you as well, especially in the early years. So that's also important to consider. And if you're a
Mm-hmm.
business owner that has fixed expenses, so for example, if the income you produce is needed to run the business and pay the rent, pay the bills, there's a business overhead expense insurance, which a lot of people don't know about. Um, it's a reimbursement policy, so you only get reimbursed for the expenses that are fixed and incurred. So it'll pay your rent, it'll keep the lights on in the building, it'll pay your professional fees, it'll pay the salaries of your administrative staff while you're on disability. When you return, then
Mm-hmm.
you're able to continue generating revenue. It just allows the business operations to continue until you return, or whether you make a decision to come back at all, or if you're able to come back. So that's another one to consider.
Okay. So almost we discussed, I think, three
Yes.
almost.
Yes.
And it's good that you mentioned last one that a lot of people don't know about. Are there any other insurance products that a lot of business owners forget to take advantage of or include to protect themselves that can offer significant benefits down the road?
Yeah, the umbrella term of key person insurance kind of covers various things that could happen, right? So your best bet is to talk to an insurance advisor, go through what your situation is with your company. If you are the only key person, then that's really what you need to focus on, because if your employees aren't
Mhm.
going to get paid, that's a big problem for your business. So I think under this umbrella, there's lots of different little areas you could go into, but I think if you go in and at least ask questions like, hey, would I qualify for a business overhead expense insurance? And do you think I need something for a key person for my insurance strategy? Is your best starting point.
Totally. I agree with you. Okay, well, I think you ladies did a great job at breaking down different types of insurance per different types of personas: homeowners, mothers, and business owners. Let me ask you a question. All of these women might have, or all of these different roles might have in common. How much does insurance on average cost, and other common factors that affect the price of insurance? And what I mean by that, let's take mortgage payments, for example. The amount of payment usually depends on your credit score, on the level of income, and other factors. Does it work the same way with insurance?
So yeah, for with insurance, it's completely dependent on a lot of different factors, right? So it matters what your occupation is. If you are working in a really risky occupation, of course it's going to be a bit more pricey because the risks are higher. And it matters about your overall lifestyle. Are you a smoker? Do you have healthy habits, or do you do any hazardous sports, right? So when we're underwriting, we go through all of those steps because it matters who you are, what you do, and the lifestyle you live. So that
Hmm.
comes into play because a thing that we always say is that you're insurable until you're not. So it's always great that when you're young and healthy to lock in insurance and get those rates at a cheaper amount, because once you're locked in from the amount that your contract stipulates you have that insurance for, no matter what changes, it's locked in from those early rates. So if you're not a smoker and you have this policy, years later you decide to take up smoking, it doesn't matter. It won't affect your policy price, right? Because you have it locked in.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then again, comparing insurance to mortgages and to mortgage payments, do I also have to, if I decide to go with a particular insurance product, do I also have to make a down payment for it and then pay for it on a monthly basis, or is it just the monthly payments?
So yeah, there's no kind of down payment. You can choose if you would like monthly payments, which are automatic withdrawals from your bank account, or annual, which means once a year you just make an easy payment online. So some people like the monthly automatic, don't have to worry about it, but others are like, you know what, I want once a year to have this payment go through and I can see it and it happens each time at that year. But yeah, so you have that choice and there's no kind of down payment. You have this policy, you pay the premiums, and you have in force for as long as the contract stipulates and as long as you're paying premiums.
What if person fails to pay for insurance? What happens in that case?
So you do have a 30-day grace period. So if you miss a payment, you will have those 30 days to pay,
Mm-hmm.
and then it can be put back into force, or sometimes it lapses. For certain exceptions, we can try to get the policy back in force after 30 days. But for the most part, if you want to keep your policy, pay your premiums on time and hopefully within the grace period if it ever comes to that.
And what happens if you don't cover it in grace period? Let's say I lost my job, I don't have income, I'm not able to afford this additional payment right now. What happens in that case?
Then your policy will lapse. But there's different options, right? For some products, you can have return of premiums. So if you were needing to cancel it for some, I think it's 15 years. All carriers are different, so it's hard to tell you which product matches what. But so you can cancel and get a certain amount of your premiums back to you, right? There's so many options that can help. So a lot of people think we're just putting in money to something and we're never getting anything back. But that is not always the case, right? It can either prepare you for when something goes wrong, or if you need to cancel, there are options to get some of those premiums or all back.
Got it. So all in all, it's all based on the individual's case and scenario.
Yeah.
And that kind of takes me to my next question. Let's say I decided I want to buy a particular insurance product. What do I do and where do I go?
So, yeah, I mean, we are there to help you. So, kind of what we like to pride ourselves on is that we're kind of breaking the stereotypes of a typical insurance agent, which everyone jokes about in the insurance world. And a typical insurance agent is pale, male, and stale. And that's not us. So, we are wanting to change the way the insurance process goes by including women in the conversation because a lot of the time they are not. We want to make them feel comfortable while understanding their particular needs and concerns. They need to be in the conversation. We want to have that approachableness to us that you can talk to us. Your financial situation is important. Your family is important and you should know what is going on in the back of that. So yeah, I guess for the process is just finding an agent that you're comfortable with and that can walk through the steps with you and find out what product best suits your needs.
hmm So I normally would, let's say I go to the Cove Advisors website, I book a consultation, I assume. We
Mhm.
have that first sit down call and figure out what I need. And then it's just you guys doing your magic on the other side and figuring out what the payments must be, et cetera, and then providing me with that information.
Exactly. Yeah. The initial call is important because we want to get to know each other as people first and foremost. And if it's something that you want to continue, and then we can look at more of the insurance side of it, then we'll go from there.
Got it. And on average, how long does that process last? From the moment we schedule the initial consultation with you till the moment that policy is active as in place?
So, again, that is very dependent. I mean, when we're doing a questionnaire, if you say yes to something, usually more things populate, so it takes a bit longer. And again, sometimes, for example, a carrier discontinued their disability product, and I got an application in just before that, but it took a long time to go, a couple months to go through because they were so backlogged. So it's hard to say because things always change. So I would never tell a client, you will be getting your policy by this time. What we do instead is we give them weekly updates to tell them how it's been progressing and how we foresee it going on, right? But it's hard to give an exact date, but we're definitely very clear with our updates and making sure they always know what's going on.
Perfect. Communication, clear communication is key in
Yes.
everything.
Hmm.
Well, ladies, I always wrap up every episode with a blitz question, and you can answer this one after another, however you like. The first question is: what does financial freedom mean to you?
Yeah, I can start. So, financial freedom means to me what I kind of referenced earlier is having space to breathe, knowing that you are prepared against any kind of financial devastation because, like I also mentioned, life doesn't always go as planned.
For me, financial freedom would be just like knowing and understanding and being involved in your financial plan.
I agree with both of you, especially Shanna, what you mentioned. I think we're currently seeing such a lot of women stepping up and starting to participate in personal finance conversations. So thank you for mentioning that. And lastly, what do you both think every woman should do to achieve financial security and freedom?
In my opinion, I think preparation. I think knowing the steps you need to take to get to the place where you want to be is important and acquiring the knowledge to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say being informed, like know what you're covered for, have a relationship with your advisor, and just be informed.
Thank you, ladies. Shanna and Nikki, you shared such a wealth of knowledge today, and I am confident that our listeners really enjoyed this conversation. If the women of In Her Wallet community want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Sure, they can take a look at our website. It's coveadvisors.com, and all of our contact information is on there. Nikki and I are both also on Instagram, shanna.coveadvisors, and Nikki is the same, nikki.coveadvisors.
Perfect. I'll make sure to attach all the information in the episode description. Thank you, everyone. My lovely In Her Wallet community. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please share it with your family and friends and whoever you think might benefit from this information. I thank you all for tuning in today. And as always, I want you to give yourself credit for showing up for yourself and your future, because every time you increase your financial knowledge, you increase what's financially possible for you. See you next time.